We've got about 515 miles to go until Havana, Cuba, so hopefully we have strong winds. I'll take a storm, I don't care. I just want to go 7 knots, 7.5 knots. We're doing about 7 right now, so we're doing good. And apparently we're going to run aground. You know how they say hindsight's 20/20? Well, this passage proved that to be correct. Because we were sailing with a schedule, and I had to get back to my pregnant wife, I knew a storm was coming, and we left anyways. One of the methods I use to get my weather information is a program called ViewFax. It's a very simple program where you can download grid files with weather data on wind, waves, pressure, etc. Now, the way the program works is in the opening page you have a map of the area you are in the world. You have to select a box or an area of the map which you want to get your weather data for.
Oh, bear.
Now, in the Caribbean, the prevailing winds are usually coming from the Atlantic. There are exceptions to this rule, but for the majority of the time, the wind and bad weather comes from the Atlantic side that blows into the Caribbean.
No, Daddy, I am not alright. We are on this boat, and it's moving around a lot, and I gotta go potty.
So when I was planning our passage from Roatan to Cuba, the areas I looked for and got the data for was all east of us. Little did I know that west of Mexico at the time was a Category 5 hurricane which was crossing over the country. Now, I'm not saying that we got caught in a hurricane. Luckily for us, the hurricane was about 300 miles north of us. But when you're dealing with a Category 5 hurricane, those things are thousands of miles across. So by the time the hurricane passed over Mexico, it was pretty much all dead. But what that meant for us was we had 4.5 days of 30-mile-an-hour winds and about 10 to 15-foot seas. It was not a fun trip. And at no point during our passage were we in any danger. But sailing is supposed to be fun, and especially on passages it can be really nice if the weather and the motion of the boat is consistent. And fortunately for us on this passage, because the wind was so confused, the wind was coming from the starboard side at one moment, and then the next moment it's coming from the port side. So that basically means that you're tacking and jibing all the time and you're adjusting the sails. It's not very fun when you're on passage. Anybody who's watching this video that is in the process of buying a boat or just a dreamer, you'll come to find out when you're out in the ocean that video never does any of the waves justice. And those that have watched any of my previous videos know that I've had some problems with my diesel generator. Fortunately, I bought one of these Yamaha EF1000s to power things while we were underway. But when you're in a seaway, it's not ideal to have a little engine running on the deck. And as I learned from previous experience, if you leave the little air vent open on the top of the generator and it's raining, water's going to get in the fuel and you're going to foul your carburetor. And the situation on this passage was, once the rain started, it did not stop for 36 hours. Now, even though Seawolf is pretty watertight, when you're going in and out of the boat with wet clothes, things just get damp. It's not comfortable conditions.
I changed our heading, dude, because freaking the wind now is pushing these like massive walls of water up. Yeah, well, it's no longer like small little sets. It's like turning into these like huge freaking. We might just see those 20-foot seas.
Now, I'm no expert meteorologist, but when you see clouds behind you and the wind is coming towards you, it would seem that the clouds are blowing away, but that's not the case.
That's so weird, dude. The storm sucks the wind into it.
Yeah.
You think it was blowing it away, but no. Alright, Darren, so why don't you tell everyone a little bit about what's going on here?
Well, we got a hell of a storm going on. Wind was blowing off the starboard beam. We were making about 6.5 knots. Saw the black clouds roll in. Wind shifted direction. Now the wind has died. We're just kind of caught in this washing machine with enough rain coming down to fill a couple of bathtubs for sure.
Yeah, seriously.
Not pretty out here right now.
Definitely not pretty.
Now, if anyone's watching this video that's about to buy a boat that does not have an autopilot, I would definitely consider investing in one. Because when you're out there for 3 or 4 days and you're trying to hand steer, it's simply not possible. You will fall asleep and you will get into trouble. Now, it doesn't even need to be something expensive or fancy. It can be a wind vane, but I would definitely recommend getting an automatic autopilot, because as you can see in this weather, the wind changes from 1 second to the next.
Nope, I think this is what we saw on the that map, remember?
What's that?
I think this is the storm with the clouds. Because before it was the wind, but there was that low pressure system moving from the west to east.
Right.
With that L on it, with all those clouds on it, remember?
Yeah.
This is it.
So look for the weather being wrong.
Yeah, I know, right? They're pretty right. I gotta tighten my lazy jacks.
Now, this is something I definitely need to research more before I go back out there. We had 2 reefs in our main, and since it was raining so heavily, the water was coming down so heavy for so long that it was actually pooling inside the sail. I had difficulty trying to keep the water out of the sails. At one point, we had about 100 gallons hanging in my sail. What I eventually did was just fold all the sails onto the other side of the boom, and that seemed to prevent the water from pooling. But there seems to be something I'm missing here. Any suggestions?
Well,
Down for a little bit of protection.
yeah. We're gonna have to get the thing put in the center, though, you know? Yeah. Just give us, another 15 minutes. I want to make sure that the wind is, going in the right. We might have to just change it all again in a couple minutes. I'm good out here for a minute, Darren, if you want to go inside and get dry.
Now, what Darren was talking about was closing our bimini, but we can't close the bimini while the traveler is not in the middle or the port or the starboard side.
I dried the floor as best as I could with the towel, but
I'm going to put it all up in the back of the second.
put your wet jacket in the bathroom. It's the end of the second night out here, and this has been the worst passage of my entire year so far. It's been 48 hours or whatever we're at. I think now we're at about 38 hours of
of just storm. I haven't used my foul weather gear all year, but I've been in the whole time here now. Darren's in mine. I'm actually wearing my wife's foul weather gear, and yeah, it's just been terrible. Over 25 knots of wind. I mean, we got 2 reefs in the main now and a sliver of jib, and wind's about 20 miles an hour right now, 20 knots. And let's just hope it stays like this, because I'm like running on fumes. Half hour here, half hour there, just cat naps, Navy SEAL naps. So, you know, but Darren's hanging in there with me. It's awesome. Our other crew, Eric, he's just incapacitated. He's got violent seasickness, and he's just been laying there since we pulled off the dock. So it's me and Darren out here.